Hi everyone, my name is Bridget Weinman and I will be talking to you today about dementia. What is dementia? Dementia is not a disease but a general term for impaired memory or memory loss. As we get older, we might experience memory loss such as not remembering where we put our cell phone or forgetting the name of a new neighbor. But dementia is impaired memory, such as getting lost in your neighborhood where you lived for 20 years or using incorrect words to replace other words. So, there are different types of dementia, including Alzheimer's disease, vascular dementia, and frontotemporal dementia. The next slide will explain more about these types of dementia. So this image was taken from the alzheimers.org website, and I think it's a great visual to help explain the different types of dementia. So as you can see, dementia is represented by a large umbrella, as this is a general term for loss of memory. Alzheimer's is the most common type of dementia and can cause loved ones to forget things they might have just done moments prior. Lewy body dementia can cause imbalance, trouble sleeping, and hallucinations. Vascular dementia is caused by strokes or blood related issues. And frontotemporal dementia affects the part of the brain that controls personality and behavior. As social workers, we all understand the importance of the NASW Code of Ethics, but I just wanted to highlight parts of the Code of Ethics that stood out to me specifically when working with those who suffer from dementia. I wanted to discuss some of the core values. So I think dignity and worth of a person can sometimes be forgotten when we are working with the older adult population, specifically those with dementia, because of their inability to advocate for themselves. So when someone has end stage dementia, they might forget who they are, where they are, and their body will begin to shut down. We as social workers continue to value their life as if they were fully aware of the situation. Importance of human relationships is highlighted because it is so important for someone with dementia to continue to have relationships with others, and I will get into this a little bit more later in our presentation. Lastly, integrity is highlighted because as social workers, we must always be honest and truthful, even when working with a population who might not remember what services we are providing to them. As for the ethical standards, I highlighted self-determination. It's important to continue to encourage those with dementia to maintain independence and highlight their strengths. I think this coincides with dignity and worth of a person. Cultural awareness and social diversity is imperative to understand when working with those who have dementia. Understanding the person's background might help the social worker uncover why the person is acting a certain way. So, for example, when I worked as a social worker in a nursing home, we had a resident who had dementia and she was Italian and she used to make homemade pasta as a little girl. And so, knowing this, we would reminisce with her about this because we knew it made her happy and feel safe in the midst of her confusion. Lastly, privacy and confidentiality remain important, and I think complements the value of integrity. Just because someone has a cognitive impairment does not mean we as clinicians should not respect the right to privacy. So these next slides are going to explain some studies I found regarding dementia. The first study is about the Dementia Early Stage Cognitive Aids New Trial, or DESCENT. This trial was used to promote self-management of symptoms caused by dementia. The authors used goal attained scaling to identify each participant's goal, which I found interesting because it made the study personalized to each participant, and it was also goal-oriented. So it was founded that the most common goals to achieve were to maintain orientation, that would be orientation to time, person, and place, and to maintain as much independence as possible. So this slide was a screen grab from the article, and it is an example of a participant's goals that they choose to work towards. And it kind of just shows how dementia can have an impact on activities of daily living and it puts into perspective how we can take something we do every day, like grocery shopping or taking a telephone message, how we can take those things for granted. So previously I mentioned the importance of human relationships. So this study focuses on human relationships with someone who suffers from dementia. So someone with dementia might live with a caregiver who can be their partner, child, close friend, whatever the relationship may be, dementia can have an impact on it. So when living with dementia, one may feel that they are losing their identity. So not only are they losing this sense of identity, but they're also suffering from the loss of relationships. This study followed 13 people caring for a loved one with dementia, and it was found that dementia had a large impact on their relationships, which included the factors of gender, sexual intimacy, and caregiver quality. So, depending on who is suffering from dementia, the gender roles can be tested, causing a strain in the relationship. It was found that sexual intimacy was negatively affected by dementia. So couples who might, show more intimacy felt as if they could not and maybe stuck to something such as hand holding. Lastly, dementia has had an impact on caregiver quality, and this study showed that a caregiver who did not have a strong relationship with their loved one prior to becoming a caregiver, their abilities were not as sufficient compared to someone with a stronger relationship with their loved one prior to that loved one getting dementia. So I think after this past year, we all kind of saw how technology can be very useful. So this was an article about smartphones for smart living and using technology aids. So technology aids can be something like the calendar app in your phone that allows you to make your daily life a little easier. So this study followed a gentleman who was diagnosed with somatic dementia, and that's a type of dementia that doesn't allow you to find the correct word that you're looking for. So it has a major effect on your communication skills. So the article showed that this gentleman was given a smartphone and taught different technology aids. And 5 years from learning those technology aids, he did have some recollection of the technology, specifically the note-taking aid and email, which allowed him to achieve one of his goals, which was maintaining independence. So some questions to consider. How would I react if my loved one was showing signs of dementia? How can social workers prepare themselves to work with those suffering from impaired cognition? What would I fear most, impairment of my cognition or physical impairment? How do I advocate for someone with dementia? And how would dementia change my relationships with others? So just some questions to think about there. So some interventions that can be useful when working with someone with dementia is narrative therapy, which is a therapy where you use reminiscing and storytelling to help the person with dementia focus on their long-term memory. It's also a therapy that can be used with the caregivers as well. There's cognitive stimulation therapy, which focuses on certain topics such as current events or finances. And this is a therapy that is used more for those who have mild dementia. There's validation therapy, which is used to help the client feel validated in their feelings, but this is a therapy that should not be used with someone who suffers from, let's say, Lewy body dementia and is having hallucinations. There's music therapy, which we saw a little bit about earlier in class, and how using music helps get in touch with someone who has cognition impairment. And I just wanted to share some personal experiences. When working at a nursing home, we often would gather information from the resident and their family to learn a little bit more about them, use that information to create activities that can help the resident feel safe and secure and to have a sense of purpose. So, for example, if we knew a resident was a homemaker, wife, and mother, we would offer them a baby doll and maybe some cloths. They would fold the cloths, feeling a sense of purpose, thinking back to being a homemaker. They would also care for the baby doll as well. So, to talk about dementia on the micro level, dementia is something that affects relationships, individuals, couples, families. A person with dementia themselves is impacted, obviously, with the loss of cognition. It causes strain in a relationship with couples and families as well. A social justice issue that can be caused because of dementia is abuse. Because you're working with such a vulnerable population, they are at a higher risk for abuse. That could be physical, financial, and self-neglect. Dementia at the macro level, dementia is causing a rise in healthcare cost. And I found an article that showed in the year 2030, the cost of healthcare will go up about 85% due to dementia. There's laws in regards to legal capacity and showing that a person's rights and choices will be respected as long as they maintain capacity. And lastly, there's organizations that one can be involved with, such as the Alzheimer's Association, Dementia Society of America. There are support groups that can be found in local hospitals and churches. And also, just important to educate yourself as a social worker so that you are able to educate others about dementia and the vulnerable population. Here are my resources. And I hope you all learned a little bit about dementia, and thank you.